Hello, my name is Brandon Sprouse. I'll be doing my presentation on Xylem's logistical challenges with the Panama Canal expansion. The Panama Canal has been the main method of getting shipping barges from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean without having to sail all the way around South America since it was created in 1914. To meet the demand of transporting more product on larger ships, the Panama Canal Authority decided to expand the Panama Canal to be able to accommodate the larger Panamax ships. The part of the project that Xylem was asked to be involved with was testing the new locks. This requires them to pump water into the new lock, check its functionality. For this, they would need to transport 12 CD400M pumps, 3 standby CD400M pumps, as well as all of the pipe, monitoring equipment, hardware, and personnel needed to accomplish this job. They would need to get all of the equipment from Bridgeport, New Jersey, to the Panama Canal, set up the application, and pump water into the locks to be tested in just under 22 days. Xylem was chosen to perform this task due to their ability to meet time crunches on previous jobs, their large rental fleet, as well as their expertise in the pumping industry. The Panama Canal expansion project was not challenging in the application aspect. It was relatively simple because Xylem was asked to pump 1.7 billion gallons of water from Lake Miraflores into the new locks, which only had an elevation change of about 60 feet. The pumps would pull water through 16-inch high-density polyethylene pipe to a CD400M dry prime pump, and that pump would then push water up over top of the locks into them so that they could be tested. Xylem also chose to use their own personnel to set up the application. They flew engineers, laborers, and operators to Panama to set up the job versus hiring local help and having to walk them through how the job needed to be set up. This job would take 15 to 17 days to complete and had to be done within a 22-day window. When gathering all the equipment for the application, they had to take into account any problems they may foresee with the equipment and ship extra equipment to be able to account for these problems. If they had to air freight something in, not only would it be expensive, but it would also be a time delay of a day. Xylem was faced with two rather large logistical challenges with this application. The first challenge was deciding on where to stage the equipment. Xylem settled on using their Bridgeport, New Jersey location to stage the equipment. They have 41 locations nationwide that the rental fleet is spread out at. The equipment was transported to New Jersey to be staged using hotshot haulers as well as truck freight. Once the equipment was staged in New Jersey, Xylem had to decide how to transport the equipment to the Panama Canal. Some options that were considered were using sea, rail, truck, and air freight. Sea freight would have been the perfect option had they had longer than 22 days. Not only would it be relatively inexpensive, but the equipment could be delivered directly to the site. Sea freight is also known not to meet their promised delivery dates and would take about 12 days to get there. Rail freight would be the second cheapest shipping method. Xylem could load all of their equipment onto rail cars and pick up the equipment at the rail yard in Panama. Rail freight would also take 20 days for the equipment to arrive on site. This would put Xylem past their deadline. Truck freight was also considered. It would take about 7 days to get the equipment there. This option would be cutting it close to the deadline though. For truck freight, various permits would also be needed for travel through countries in order to get the equipment to Panama. There was not a given timeline for how long it would take to get these permits. Air freight would get the equipment there in a day. The job could begin set up the day after the equipment arrived, keeping Xylem ahead of the deadline for the job. While shipping air freight is expensive, the deadline for the job dictated which method they should use. Xylem chose to charter 5 747 cargo planes to transport the equipment and have it delivered in one day. Once the equipment had arrived in Panama, Xylem was challenged with transporting the equipment from the airport to the site. For this, they chose to use semi-trucks to haul the equipment. It took 5 semi-trucks to haul the pumps, 9 semi-trucks to haul the high-density polyethylene pipe, as well as 3 trucks to haul the additional components needed for this job. Once the equipment was on site, Xylem had to make a decision as to what personnel they were going to use to set up this application. Sometimes they like to use outside help to set it up, but due to the high profile of this job, Xylem chose to fly in their own people to set it up within that 22-day time constraint. Once the job was in operation, they also had to monitor the job until completion. For this, you have two options. The first option being a pump watch, where a person is physically out on the application monitoring all of the equipment. Or there's another option called the Field Smart technology, which uses sensors to monitor various aspects of the application. Xylem used a combination of the two. They used the Field Smart technology with their engineers to monitor it online, as well as a person staying relatively close to the application should something go wrong. Xylem was able to complete this job in just under 20 days, beating the 22-day timeline. In order to better prepare for future global challenges, Xylem should consider having equipment in regional areas. For this, Xylem has two options: open a facility in a global regional area, or to create a distributor in a global regional area for their equipment. If Xylem were to open a Central American branch location, they would need to consider what areas this location would service. Also, they would need to consider if there would be enough business to support a facility in this area. Having the equipment relatively close would be a positive effect, but how often would the equipment be used? They should also consider if this location reduces the time it takes to get equipment to a certain area that they are looking to grow in. If Xylem chose to go the distributor route, they need to consider if that company is able to support the business. They should have trained personnel on how to service the equipment, as well as handle challenging application designs. Going the distributor route would save them on costs associated with the facility, as well as staffing that facility. For other global jobs, Xylem should look into local contractors. Using local contractors for labor would decrease the cost of having employees sent to this area for job quotes and setups. These employees would have to be trained to understand the product line, as well as how to apply the product to various applications. For shipping the equipment globally in the future, Xylem should hire a third-party logistics company that specializes in the transportation of products to areas globally. They would need to consider the company's portfolio and choose one that best fits the needs that they have with shipping equipment globally. The benefit to using a third-party logistics company is that they would have experience in shipping globally and would be able to ship equipment for them at a lower cost and still meet the time constraints for the job. They specialize in transporting products and would choose the most cost-effective method based on each situation. In the end, Xylem made the right call to use air freight to transport the equipment from New Jersey to the Panama Canal. They were able to finish the job ahead of the projected deadline, which further increased their reputation with meeting challenging job criteria. Using their own people for this job was the right decision due to the time constraint and how critical the application was. Xylem should reflect on this job and position themselves so that they can meet future global demands in similar time frames. Opening a location in a centrally located place, such as the Panama Canal, would allow them to ship equipment via sea freight at a cheaper rate and in a faster time frame to areas in Central America. They should apply this thinking to other areas of the world as well. Xylem should also consider hiring a third-party logistics company to handle the shipping needs for the jobs of this nature in the future. These companies specialize in transportation and may have other options that Xylem had not thought of. This would also save them costs due to the frequency that the third-party logistics companies use the various methods of transportation. Thank you for listening to my presentation.